When Yahweh our Elohim seeks to have fellowship with us, he does not lower himself in his set apartness. However, he elevates his people so that they can fellowship with him. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 1, the Torah portion Mishpatim. This is a longer list of various rulings and right understandings according to jurisprudence, how to settle court cases. These particular verses are given to the shoftim, to the judges, so that they would know how to rightly rule between one party and another. So as we look at these, let's begin with the very first verse, Shemot or Exodus chapter 21, verse number 1. These are the right rulings which you are to set before them. Now it's a declarative statement, but in the Hebrew it reads a little differently. The first words here are ve'ele, hamishpatim. That the sound that you hear at the beginning is a vav, which means and. It is a connecting word. And so the phrase is properly translated, and these are the judgments or the right rulings. What this says to us with that small three-letter word and being included is that what is following after is to be vitally connected to what was just stated. In the middle of a sentence, when you're writing and you include the word and, you're connecting what follows with what just preceded. That understood, then, what does this mean? This means that these various rulings of situations that may come up are connected to the appearance of Yahweh our Elohim on Mount Sinai and the 10 words, more famously called 10 Commandments, but actually it's 10 words. So as we look at this, then we understand that as acceptable and necessary as the 10 words are, so are these rulings that follow. So for example, concerning the buying of a Hebrew slave, well, you think, well, that doesn't fit anymore. We hold people in slavery all the time. They may not be held in chains and living in a house in the backyard somewhere. They may not be sweating in our fields somewhere, but we hold people in bondage on a frequent occasion. If you owe someone a debt, you are their servant until you pay them off. It's the same principle here. If someone has gone into a state of indebtedness for which they cannot repay, then they have to work off that indebtedness. So if I owe a debt I can't pay, someone else may pay for that debt. Now I'm obligated to work for that person for 6 years to pay off my indebtedness through labor for him. These commands then give me the circumstantial understanding of what my life will be like, what will be required of me, what my rights are, what the owner's rights are, and my obligations. Then, now all being spelled out, everything is clear. But it is connected to Yah appearing on Mount Sinai. Why is this even necessary? Simply put, Yah is elevated and we are not. Yah is righteous as his own nature and we are not. Yah is set apart, as we would say, holy, and we are not. But he does not leave us in said condition. He seeks to elevate us. And the elevation comes by building us up as a people, enabling you and I to find righteousness. So we understand then that this large group of slaves who have now been brought to this mountain in the middle of nowhere and who have been told, you are a peculiar people, you are a set-apart royal nation, you are a kingdom of priests to me. I brought you here on eagle's wings. I have now allowed you to hear my own audible voice. I am transforming you. Now pay attention. This is how you are to live as such people. So they were no longer given the rules of slavery. They were being given the rules of freedom and liberty. A man or a woman did not have to be sold into slavery through indebtedness. They could keep their affairs in order. When they reached the land, everyone receives an inheritance portion. Everyone has a chance. Did it benefit everyone in the nation? No. Many quickly found themselves in servitude because they squandered, mishandled, and mismanaged what was entrusted to them. Yah did not leave them in the bottom of the barrel. There is a 50-year reset. There are opportunities and means by which that they can climb back up and get back to the table again. You don't have to live in a negative fashion. You can live in a victorious, overcoming fashion. And Yah will show you how. How does he do that? Through the Torah. When we get to Exodus or Shemot chapter 21, those that are reading the Bible through, they get to this place and they check out. Well, what follows is just all that law stuff. Sadly, we have been taught denominationally within our hierarchical structures that we came out of, or many of us are still in. It is often taught that, quote unquote, the law is bondage. Well, let's break this down. The word law is not a right translation of the word Torah. Torah does not mean law, never has meant law, never will. Torah is properly interpreted instructions and teachings. It is Yah pointing the finger and showing this is the way you're to live. This is the way you're to do it. Law has no connotation, no connection to Torah. None. Zero. Well, what about Paul or Rav Shaul saying that we don't want to be under the works of the law? The works of the law are efforts religiously taught whereby man, by keeping commands, would be declared righteous. The Torah was never given to us to declare us righteous. Not once, not ever. It is obedience that brings blessing. It is belief that brings righteousness. We believe first, then we obey, and righteousness is produced. Belief brings righteousness. Just merely obeying the law may bring favor and blessing, but it does not, never has, never will bring righteousness. Well, what about the law of sin and death? The law of sin and death existed from the garden. Yah told Adam and Chava, or Eve, in the day that you eat of this tree, you will die. That is the law of sin and death. Yeshua has liberated us from the curse of that law. That law is still in effect. But by trusting in Yeshua that he paid the penalty for breaking that law, we've been given life, resurrection life. We die, and yet we live. The law of sin and death does still take place, but we die to ourselves and become alive in Messiah, and therefore we live. Well, what about being under the law? That means under its curse, its penalty, or its judgment. And again, we no longer are, because Yeshua paid that price and delivered us from being under the law. We're not under the law. Well, then why would you want to be in bondage anymore? We're not. The book of James, or Yaakov, says that the Torah is the perfect law of liberty. We look into this mirror, we see ourselves, and the Torah teaches how to change. So the anti-Torah teaching that has often filled our pulpits and our classrooms, it's well-meaning, it's well-intentioned, and it is the passing down of that which has been rehearsed over and over and over again. But the effect, the righteous effect of this is that Yah seeks to have fellowship with those who draw near to him, and he does not lessen his set-apartness to do so, but he elevates us that we may fellowship with him. The Torah is about teaching and instructing, so that we can be elevated. More tomorrow. To then, shalom.